Ladies and gentlemen, via the Dildo Burger Prophecies by Michael Fazio, today I bring you the Antichrist by turning the $1 bill upside down and bringing the God Pod and the evil seed of death together, because if the God Pod represents the first 17 verses within the book of Genesis, then the evil seed of death represents the book of Revelation. And I am telling you that today, 4 of the most important events, and probably 5 of the most important events that will ever take place in the history of this world, are taking place on July 20th. The 5th event that we will never know about is something is going on behind closed doors in Washington that is going to be the event that collapses the American economy. How I know this is not important, but today I am going to show you a picture of Lucifer, a picture of Satan, or a picture of the Antichrist, which is in fact a representation of the 44th POTUS. Because at the end of times, the book of Genesis, which is life, and the book of Revelation, which is the end of life as we know it, comes together. And when I bring the God Pod and the evil seed of death together, you are going to see an exact replica of what Satan or Lucifer would look like, represented as the 44th POTUS, who was sent unto this world to destroy this world, who is an abomination by every sense of the word, including the verses in the Bible, Matthew 25 verse 15, where it speaks about an abomination. And although it is spelled differently, it is the same abomination. And I am going to show you the Antichrist on the $1 bill momentarily. But first, I want to tell you how these pictographs got on to the $1 bill. They were put on the $1 bill by an entity or remnant society of entities that we perceive to be alien in nature, who have also had a secret society that have been in control of this world for the last 20,000 years, certainly before Atlantis. However, the entity that is now in control of this world is getting ready to collapse America and institute Agenda 21, which you all know I agree with. So there's no problem there. I just don't like the selecting method. But in the end, everything will be good, because in the end it doesn't really matter. However, today's dissertation is going to be about the pictograph of the Antichrist on the $1 bill. And here is the first of the series of pods that exist on the reverse of the $1 bill, that which I have called the God Pod. And I have called it the God Pod because everything within this circle or seed, everything within this circle or seed represents life as we know it on planet Earth. This that is outlined in a purple-orange coloring is the 6th wing seraphim that protects the Lord God within the God Pod. Now, when we move over to the right-hand side of the bill, and we reduce it just a little bit, what we see is the evil seed of death. And the evil seed of death represents Satan. And the evil seed of death is also protected by the 6th wing seraphim, which, because of the nature of the $1 bill itself, in that it itself is of a prophetic nature, it is a series of pictographs that have been placed on the bill by something that exists or has existed in control, in total control of this planet for the last 50,000 years. And the series of pictographs not only depicts the Ark of the Covenant and King Solomon's Temple and the pictograph of King Solomon's Temple and the Ark of the Covenant, it depicts the beginning of the history of the United States of America and the end of the history of the United States of America, which is coming to a close, folks. It's going to happen. Let's move past that. let's go to the next video or segment of the video, in that these are depictions of all the different things that appear on the $1 bill. However, unless you see these pictographs exploded to a point of 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 times their original size, you cannot discern what any of the items on the pictograph actually are and or represent. So I exploded it and spent years studying the pictographs. And what I have come to the conclusion is, again, this is the God pod and this is the evil seed of death. Now, to prove to you that the God pod and the evil seed of death exist, I am going to expand this one step further, 2 steps further. I'm going to bring you this. Everything inside the God pod, everything inside the God pod represents life and the first 17 verses of the book of Genesis. Everything inside the evil seed of death, everything inside the evil seed of death represents death and the book of Revelation. However, you cannot see Satan, although you can see a depiction of what appears to be a chief, which represents the United States of America, or the chief of America, which is the commander-in-chief, which is the Obama, which is the abomination. And when I reverse this, before I reverse it, this is the abomination with a nuclear detonation over its head. The nuclear detonation exists because at one time the only methodology in which to kill Americans that existed was a bow and arrows. Depicted in the eagle's talons, a bow and arrows, a bow and arrows, a bow and arrows. But the new methodology in which to kill people in today's society is a nuclear detonation. And now I'm going to show you that nuclear detonation. Here is the nuclear detonation. That looks like it's the jet stream or wash of a rocket engine. This is the chief or Indian chief that existed in the 1770s. A bow and arrows. This is the chief. This is the headdress of the chief. But in reality, what this is, folks, this is a representation of Satan or Lucifer, but more to the point, the commander-in-chief that sits behind the shield of this once great nation, who used to have the ability to kill people with the bow and arrows, but now has expanded his ability to kill people via a nuclear weapon, which appears over the eagle's head. Now, moving past this, we're going to show you a pictograph of the back of the bill when the two seals, aka the two great seals, are almost touching each other. And in this pictograph where the two seals are almost touching each other, right in the center, you will see what appears to be a little fellow right here with his hands over his eyes. His hands are over his eyes, and this looks like a sword, which is the great sword from on high. That represents Barack Insane or Hussein Obama as a great flash of lightning in the sky. This is the beginning of the depiction of the entity that we perceive to be Satan or Satan-like, aka the Obama. Notice that when the seals are almost brought together, when they're almost touching each other, you start to see a depiction of an entity that is Satan-like in nature. But when we bring the seals together and make them closer to one another and explode it, you are going to see the Antichrist itself in the form of a face that appears to be demon-like in nature, with horns running down on either side of its beard-like face, with eyes here, one set of eyes, two sets of eyes, three sets of eyes. there are three separate entities. Once you start to bring the bills or the seals together, you start to see the Antichrist. This is the Antichrist. But to prove that it is the Antichrist, to go one step further, was the part of the process that I explained to you you needed to accomplish. In order to see Satan, you needed to turn Satan's world upside down. And here is going to be Satan's world rotated twice to see Satan itself as the part and parcel of an entity that appears on the reverse of the $1 bill. And that, folks, is not disputable. And that is a pictograph of the entity that which we perceive to be Satan or Luciferian-like in nature. And this, Michael Fazio has to go because he needs to get a bigger camera. And today, someone is going to offer me that bigger camera.